taken a very long hiatus from Zero AD and from making videos in general. Yeah, so I am really excited. As you can see, I have relocated. I'm now living in an unfinished basement, but I have made it my own. Yeah, so I'm really excited to share this with you. I am not working with the Boon GUI mod today. I need to download that shit before it slipped my mind, before I do any like team games or whatever. But yeah, so you will see I'm like mad out of practice as far as Zero AD goes. I switched back to playing as the Kushites actually. I was doing Iberians for a while. But, yeah, you'll see probably how out of practice I am, but I feel proud because I kind of held my own playing against this person, BeTe, who is playing as, I don't even remember what this civ is. I think it's, don't tell me, is it the Macedonians? Yes, it's Macedonians. So, yeah, let me speed this John up a little bit. So yeah, it looks like they sent their initial 4 ladies to go gather berries, and they decided to get the berry upgrade. The way we started is almost identical, actually. What I have been doing to start out is create a batch of 4 women, and then have them come out one at a time on auto queue after that. And I send all of my initial people actually to get the wood, and then those first 4 women pop out and get the berries. So I did get the berry upgrade, and I added an additional 2 women, so now we're up to 6 gathering berries, whereas all of the women coming out over here are getting to the wood. At some point, now I'm going to add 2 more to the berries. And basically, right around about maybe 45 seconds before the berries are fully depleted, I end up bumping it up to 10 women. And as the berries are about to be completely depleted, I start making the farms, and I start out with 4. And I try to quickly populate those farms with 5 women on each. I'm actually going to go just fast for now. So before I get my barracks going, while I'm still only doing auto queue 1 woman at a time out of the civic center, I usually just have 1 unit, either a woman or one of the initial soldiers, building the houses. And the Kushite houses have they support 10 population each. So having just that 1 unit build 1 house at a time before the barracks gets built really tends to work out pretty perfectly as far as you know what I mean. I'm definitely a little bit rusty in terms of speaking in front of a camera. But yeah, when the trees near the Civic Center are depleted, what I do is to make the shift over to the storehouse more gradual, I will grab everybody who's working on those trees, and then I'll shift click to build a storehouse over there. So basically, as soon as each unit is finished with whatever tree they're currently on, they migrate over to that storehouse, so that way you don't end up grabbing them all at once and sending them over to build the storehouse, and therefore having that gap of time where nobody is actually gathering wood. It's much more gradual that way. So I'm up to 50 in under 5 minutes, so I'm keeping up with the rule of thumb of 10 pop per minute, which is good. Usually as soon as I hit 50 and my max pop is 60, that's the point where I will tell the whoever's building the houses, that's the point where I'll order the new house to be built. And usually that gives me about like 3 or 4 pop leeway in the first stage before the barracks is built. If there's a gap of 6, that's like the the minimum gap that I basically like. If it's 5 or less, and I tell them to build a house, I'm probably going to get a little bit housed for a minute there. But you know, to give myself some breathing room, I try to have like a space of about 10 pop. When I tell them to build that next house. So once the barracks gets built, at that point is when I switch over to military units. And starting military units at 5.5 minutes in is definitely like a risky mode of play. Like if I were to get rushed at any point before then, I would be pretty much screwed. So I am kind of looking forward to developing a strategy in which I start building military units a little bit earlier on. Because if I get rushed before 6 minutes and I've only been building women, it's pretty much game over at that point. But luckily I did not get rushed early on in this game, so things are going really well. I'm pretty balanced as far as food and wood goes. It looks like okay, so I am getting attacked. Let's slow this shit down. Okay, so it's actually just up here. I always have my cav, like, run across the back, of their, what do you call it, to kind of establish, you know, an idea of, what their strategy is, just based on, I find that running along the back kind of avoids conflict most of the time. They got me this time, but it avoids conflict while still getting as much info as possible about the, you know, what's going on with your opponent. And I also try to shift-click all around the map so that the cav has completely explored the whole map and go around their base basically as the last thing that the cav does, so that if the cav does get killed like it did in this circumstance, I still have an idea of what the whole map looks like. So I'm still really balanced as far as food and wood goes, which is great. Oh shit, I'm on slow. Oopsie. I'm really balanced, and I still have my 2 units. Instead of keeping the 2 units together, building one house at a time, it's a lot faster if you have them each building their own house. And all the way up until going on to phase 2, I find that those 2 units are more than enough to keep up with the housing. I'm actually like a little bit ahead. I'm 23 pop. That's how much room that I have before I were to get housed. So right around when I go to phase 2 is when I start sending basically half of basically the units coming out of the Civ Center are now going to be going to wood cutting, whereas the units coming out of the barracks are now going to be going on to metal. And I do metal first because it's important for my strategy in which I start building recruiting mercenaries out of the Nova village. So generally speaking, the very first building I build on phase 2 is the Nova village with the Kushites, because once I start popping once I start popping out these mercenaries, these skirmishers and mace men, they can be my designated builders for basically the rest of the game. So his cav came along, and I was a little bit slow and wonky with this, and I easily should have been able to take that mofo down, but I unfortunately did not get him. He escaped. But I didn't spend a lot of time chasing him, whatever. So this would have been actually really good information to utilize. Holy fucking shit. He has 23 women there, and only skirmishers, which is crazy. They're not, these guys, they're not, spearmen or pikemen. So if I was going with a cav strategy, which wouldn't have really been that realistic because there's not really that much for food on this map for hunt. But if I had been going for an early cav strategy, I could have completely massacred almost every single one of them. Well, he could have gotten like 10 into houses, or 15 if he was fast enough, but I really could have done a lot of damage, and running that cav along the back gave me really good information, which could have really helped me out if I was playing, you know, a different strategy than I was. But Anyway, so he's at 99 pop, I'm at 92, so I am behind him. And let's actually check out what he's doing. So he's doing batches. I honestly, like, batches are for an advanced player. A lot of people say an advanced player will only train units in batches, but I find that there's some benefits to popping units out one at a time. First of all, like, once that unit pops out, it's immediately going to start gathering resources. So you're getting that benefit. You don't have to wait for all of them to come out at the same time. And also, popping units out at a slightly slower rate actually leaves you room in terms of your resources to spend those resources on upgrades. So let's see, his pop is, okay, so I'm actually housed, but I think this is the first time that I've gotten housed in the whole game. He is 10 pop ahead of me, however, let's check out our upgrades, respectively. So at the storehouse, he has woodcutting, but he doesn't have either of his mining upgrades. And he has his first, he has his first, farming upgrade, but he is not even at phase 2 yet. So that's what I was saying about, what do you call it, giving yourself leeway by not necessarily relying fully on batches early on. You can give yourself leeway to get more upgrades, which increases your overall productivity and allows you to build up that surplus of resources that you need to bounce up into the next phase. Now, one huge mistake that he has made throughout this game is he has 3,000 wood and he's just sitting on it. He's doing absolutely nothing with it. And he has 3 barracks, which means he had even more of a surplus of wood. And he poured it into these barracks, but he's not producing. Okay, so now he's doing 3 at a time, which is good. You know, he's utilizing them, but not only, so here we go. He has all these barracks, that's a bunch of wood. He has all of these farms, that's a bunch of wood that he used, and he still has 3,500 extra wood on top of that. These farms are, let's see, he has 40 women here, and 12 farms. So 12 farms is enough for 60 women. So 4 of these farms are literally going to complete waste. So yeah, that's very poor management of economy, very poor management of resources. He's been so low on food. I think what probably happened is he spammed out all of these farms because he realized how low he was on wood, or how big of a disparity there was between his wood and his food eco. But yeah, it's kind of too little too late at this point. So he's now up to, still, even despite all this, he's up to 140. And, okay, so I've now closed the gap in terms of pop, and I've actually pulled ahead of him. And not only that, he hasn't even begun to go to phase 2 yet, and I'm very well into phase 2. Now, he has 12 farms, I only have 8. And yet, in terms of food and wood, I'm matched perfectly, pretty much. I have about 1,200 of each, so I'm keeping them growing very much in tandem. I'm building these guys 1 or 2 at a time. I have them on auto queue, the mercenaries, and they are my designated builders. So I have them kind of just doing houses one after the other. I'm keeping them busy. Whereas from my barracks, I'm doing, now that we're well into phase 2, I'm doing batches. I'm doing 3 at a time swordsmen out of the barracks and 3 at a time archers out of the Civ Center. So overall, I have I think a good balance of swords and archers. I have 30 swordsmen and 60 archers. So I have about double the ranged units as I do the melee units, which I think is a really good balance because the ranged units have less HP and the melee units provide kind of a meat shield that you need up in the front line so that your enemy can never even really reach those ranged units to kind of plow through them. as far as the okay, so this is really, really bad, and I think this stays here for a really long time, all 24 of these idle units. One of the worst 0 AD bad habits that I have is not, eyeballing my idle units button down there in the bottom left corner, because they were okay. Thankfully, they didn't chill there for too long. But I think once this small metal mine filled up, these smaller metal mines, I think they can only like 10 or 12 units 12 units, I think it is, can populate that. So I had all of these guys automatically popping out and kind of going to this metal mine, but once it filled up really quick, they were idle for a long time. But thankfully, I sent them along with all of my mercenaries to build this second civ center. So I built it around these three, this concentration of metal here. And I find if and when you're building a second civic center, one of the most important strategies is, I'm sure there are situations where this rule doesn't apply, but I always try to build that second civ center as close as possible to my first civ center, because if it's isolated, it's very easy for an enemy to capture, and more importantly, if they do capture it, and it's completely isolated and not linked to your first civ center by a chain of buildings, and therefore territory, once that gets captured or destroyed, all of the buildings that you've built around it, you're going to lose all of that shit as well. So, yeah, it's mad important to, keep them kind of close, and almost instead of thinking about building a second civ center, instead of thinking of it as a whole second city or area or base, just I find it's good to think of it as like an extension of your first base. And in line with that thinking, what I like to do is, once I've built that second civ center, build a chain of buildings in between, further connecting those two areas, so that there's a really solid, like taking one thing, even if it's your second civ center, will never completely sever, your territory in such a way that you really lose anything but the building that they're taking or destroying in that moment. So, yeah, that's why I built these stables here to connect this area. I'm pretty sure stables give, like, a really good amount of territory, similar to a barracks. And, once I build that second civ center, if I build it, during that time, late phase 2, early phase 3, I'm headed to phase 3 right now, that's when I like to start building up a large quantity of stables, because those are kind of what I'm going to be using in the late game to reinforce my army as soon as my troops start dropping like flies in battle. I want to have a ton of stables to be able to build cav, ideally 2 at a time, because you can get conscription, which allows a minus 10% batch training time. So if you're building them 1 at a time out of each stable, then you don't get the benefit. But as long as you're popping 2 cav at a time out of each stable, then you get that benefit from that upgrade. So yeah, I try to build literally as many stables as physically possible towards the end of phase 2, beginning of phase 3, in order to reinforce once the battle really starts cooking. I could have built another, I definitely should have built another storehouse right here. Okay, so here we go. He is attacking at this point. He's sending... So this was a big mistake on his part, just starting by sending these 2 rams. He should have sent them kind of more in the middle with all his other troops. At this point, he had these guys coming, and then they kind of reversed direction for a second, so that was valuable time that he lost. Yeah, he really should have gathered everybody up first before he sent them in instead of trickling them in, because I have to trickle because his attack came as a surprise to me. So I had to kind of grab everybody in a panicked state when I was kind of in the middle of still trying to stock my farms, you know, for the late game, especially because I rely heavily on cav in the late game to reinforce. That means I need probably at least 14 farms. But yeah, I was kind of in the middle of that, and I panicked here, I think. But I did end up pulling everybody off. He has, I should have counted beforehand, but he has, let me actually slow this down just a little bit. He has 71 troops right now. I think I might have killed a few, and I have 87, so I actually have more than him. He has a lot of skirmishers, though, which are really strong. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place with the mouse. Like I said, I'm out of practice. But, so I have this long line of archers. Skirmishers are much more effective units than archers in most situations. They're stronger, and he's pretty much killed everybody except for my ranged units. And as far as reinforcing goes, I should have really gotten to building those stables. Well, let's see. Yeah, I think I only have these 3 stables, and by this point I should really have, like, closer to 10. Also, he has destroyed pretty much all of my swordsmen and macemen. He just killed my last sword cav, so there's nothing to stop these rams from coming and plowing through and destroying the very small amount of buildings that I do have that I could be using to reinforce. I'm even training cav out of the Civ Center, the second Civ Center, kind of desperately at this point. These archers cannot do shit about these rams, and he's got a bunch of them. So this has really got me in a tough situation. I am training sword cav in the stables to go after the rams, but there's only so much they can do because there's only 2 stables and there's a hell of a lot of rams. So at this point, I wish I could show you the KD right now. I need to download the Boon GUI mod, but I'm having a lot of trouble with it. Maybe somebody, like, write in the comments. For some reason when I try to run the Boon GUI mod on my Mac, the issue I run into is the entire window is kind of like skewed a little bit up and a little to the right or some shit, and it just doesn't work. So if anybody could, like, help me out with that problem, I would really appreciate it. But yeah, so I did manage to stand my ground and pretty much annihilate his army. 150, so I'm still ahead in terms of pop, but no, there's nothing I can do about these rams, other than finally I got these sword cav out, and I do have these macemen and swordsmen here, so I finally took down his rams, thank God. But, yeah, I'm trying to punish that first attack, but I really think I need to more recuperate here. And he has a whole extra wave of reinforcements. He has 111. Oh, no, 50 of them are women. So he has 60 troops right here. I only have 23 in the front line, so I have to retreat. Meanwhile, I have these guys back here, 27, mostly archers, building up this Kushite temple, which is an extremely, it's one of the, in my opinion, it's one of the most potent and effective buildings in the entire game. It's a temple, and it can hold 40 units, and it heals them incredibly fast. So what I did was I sent 44 more units back up to the front line to try and kind of push. The problem is he has a defense tower right there, and I kind of weighed my options, and, you know, I think I could have won that exchange because I definitely had more units. I had 10 more units than he did, but I decided I would heal them instead. And now it's going to be a process of regrouping and rebuilding. He's down to 124, and I'm still at 181. The problem is, let's check out his buildings. He has a temple. He has he has 5 barracks. I only have my 1 barracks, and I only have 2 stables and 1 noble village. And I'm producing from all of them. And I'm producing from my Civ Center. One of the problems was I think I made way too many extra women, because right when the battle started, I was building them 5 at a time to try to repopulate those farms, or to populate, my additional farms that I needed for Phase 3. But I forgot to stop making the women because I got caught up in the battle. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's not entirely problematic, to be honest, because I do have a large surplus of food, which I just traded for wood because all of my woodcutters I had ended up sending into the battle. So let's check out what we each have going on in terms of... So I have pretty much only Phase 1 upgrades. I'm pretty behind on upgrades. I'm not terribly so. Let's see what he's got going on that front. Where are his blacksmiths? This is why I need the Boon GUI mod. Like, I need to, because it just has that convenient menu on the right where you can just see everything. Blacksmith, where are you? Is this it? Yes. No, that's an arsenal. Sorry, guys. This is really odd. Does he have one? Let's try a different angle. There it is. So, is he... Okay, he is at Phase 3. Okay, so he got all of his ranged upgrades, but he hasn't gotten a single attack upgrade for non-ranged troops. It seems to me that he relies very, very heavily on skirmishers, which I think, let's see, he has 3... Are these spearmen or pikemen, the foot companion? These are... Pike. Okay, so, yeah, I would say, honestly, like, 15 pikemen would be a good complement to these 46 skirmishers, because they could, that small amount of pikemen could provide a really effective meat shield, while the skirmishers deal massive amounts of damage, without being, touchable. If they were spearmen, I would say even, like, 7 or 8 spearmen would be a good balance. For that amount of skirmishers, because spearmen have so much armor that even though they do almost no damage, they can absorb like a shit ton of damage before they go down. So let's see what mistakes I might be making. After that battle, I put pretty much everybody back on wood. I am still low on wood, so I don't think that was a terrible strategy, but I'm trying to find out. I have some idols over here. I still have all these idol archers here. I have 52 idols right now, so what the hell am I doing, literally? I sent these women to build this storehouse, but somehow they just ended up standing on top of it, which is very obnoxious. Because if they were gathering wood, then I could be using some of these guys up near the front line to gather metal, because that is a huge problem for me right now. I don't have anyone on this metal mine as far as I can see. I'm finally sending these guys. So after that first metal mine, I think one of my biggest mistakes was I actually just neglected to throw any new units back onto metal, which means I still haven't really gotten so far as upgrades go. I'm finally getting them on there. And I stocked in terms of stables. I now have 8 of them, which is, I would say, normally I like to go for even like 12 or 14 stables, and honestly, I would probably need to balance that with like, probably 14 or more farms. But in this game, I got up to 8 stables, And wow, that's a lot of sword cav coming out. So here we are progressing into the final battle. I'm 300 pop. He's only at 228, which is wild. He sent in a lot of rams. Let's see what his troop composition is. He has a hero. I actually do not have a hero because I never built a fortress, which was a huge mistake on my part because the buffs that you get from a hero are extremely important. So he sent in 84 troops, and I was countering it with 122, 43 of which were cavs, so I could have completely trounced him in that battle, and I think he knew that, so he turned his troops around. I should have definitely, I guess what happened was I saw his fort, and that kind of made me, trepidatious. It made me kind of, I didn't want to fight in his territory, but honestly, I probably could have still come out on top with that disadvantage, just because the troops that we had were so disparate, especially being that like half of my army was made up of cav. Yeah, I feel like I really could have kicked his ass there. Not like terribly, but yeah. So yeah, he got the middle. He got these two upgrades. Which one is this? Soldiers +1 hack resistance. He didn't get the pierce resistance for whatever reason at all. He got none of those. And I have a very like balanced troop composition, so he could do well with getting both of those. Maybe. Yeah, he has the medal for it. For me, I still have been neglecting, I guess because it took me so long to finally get my people onto medal, that, yeah, I still haven't been able to get those upgrades. I also still haven't built a hero, which is a mistake. I'm probably going to do that soon, though. So the problem is I've been sitting at 300 pop for a painfully, annoyingly long time. I have 61 idols. 15 of them are archers, 10 of them are swordsmen, so those 25 troops could be gathering resources. That's a huge problem. Oh, that's a huge mistake. I just sent about like 15 people up to the front line to just get slaughtered. And here he comes with, let's see, alright, 192, I mean, minus the women, so about 185, and I only have 136, so he has a much bigger army that he's hitting me with, and you're gonna see my population drop really fast. Yeah, so I was at max pop for a long-ass time, and he was like 80 below, and I could have used that opportunity to attack him. I made the mistake of not building an elephant stable or fucking arsenal for this entire game. I don't think I realized how far ahead of him I was in terms of economy, in terms of population. Just in general, my booming abilities were, I think, ahead of his, and I don't think I was necessarily aware of that, and because of that, I missed a lot of opportunities where I could have gone on the offensive, especially towards the end there when I just sat on all of those troops at max pop for like several minutes and just let him slowly build up to 300. Yeah, that was a big mistake on my part. It definitely was. So, yeah, I'm pretty much getting annihilated at this point. Let's see what we got. Zephyr, 160, and he's at 300, so he's completely turned the tables on me. And at this point, I saw the writing on the wall, and I resigned. And yeah, I was pumping out cav all the way up until the bitter end there, but for what? So the crazy thing is, yeah, it was pretty even throughout, I would say. The crazy thing is, like, for the second half of the game, it was very even. It's crazy. For the second half of the game, though, I was well and ahead of him, and I very much, I had a lot of opportunities to capitalize on that lead, and I made the decision to kind of hang back. And yeah, I would say that was my main, the main flaw in my strategy. So yeah, it's really good to be back making Zero AD videos. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Definitely give me a like and subscribe and ring the bell if you want to see more of my videos. Yeah, I'm excited to, engage with this community more. I haven't seen any videos from Jim from Zero AD Newbie Rush for like 8 months. I should email him and see. He's probably just doing something else with his life, he's a busy guy. But damn, do I miss his videos. They were fucking fire. He was by far and away my favorite Zero AD YouTuber. Yeah, his videos are so professional. I can't say enough good things about him, but check out Tom Zero AD. I think he's still making videos, and who else is still making videos? I played a game against Kate the other day, so it's possible that she's gonna be putting out videos again soon. I know she took a little bit of a hiatus from Zero AD, the same as me, but shit, yeah, this was a lot of fun, guys. Hope to be making more.